Hi everyone, I'm back with part 2 of my video series, Essene Teachings for the Modern Day Mystic. And if you had the chance to check out part 1, then you will already know who the Essenes are and the parallels that I talked about with our modern day society. If you haven't had a chance yet to check out part 1, make sure to go check that out here on Instagram or on YouTube. So let's just dive right into some more information about the Essenes. So the Essenes had locations. They were a mystery school, a group of mystics. They were actually Essenes. The word Essenes means brother and sisterhood of light. And a lot of the old scriptures talks about the Essenes being a male group, which of course is wrong. We know that that's not accurate at all. They were women and men all living together in a community with families, with children. Now the Essenes supposedly came from a group of people from a very old civilization, and they call their ancestors the Kolu. And from different research, the Kolu are basically Atlanteans. That's kind of what Dolores Cannon figured out. And then there's another hypnotist, and I can't remember her name. Anyway, these people figured out that the Kolu are basically Atlanteans, and the Atlanteans came to the Essenes, and they taught them everything that they knew because Atlantis fell, and they needed to pass on all of the knowledge, the spiritual technology that they had mastered, all kinds of wisdom. So they went and looked up different groups of mystics that were ready to receive this spiritual knowledge. And we have people all over the world, like the Druid cultures, the Egyptians, and all kinds of different groups. And all these different groups had connections with the Atlanteans that passed on their knowledge. And that is also why we are able to find all this same knowledge in all these different civilizations. But now back to the Essenes. So they are called the brother and sisterhood of light. And some things about the Essenes that are not known to the general public is that they stored their knowledge not only in the scrolls, like the Dead Sea Scrolls that we know of, which is only a super small percentage of, and not even the most important stuff. It's basically the stuff that they didn't even care about. Well, that was not that important to them. That's what they discovered. But all of the important knowledge was stored in crystals. They had very advanced crystal technology, and they were very secluded, and they didn't really consider themselves to be part of the Jewish community because their technology was so much more advanced, their astrology was so much more advanced, and they had complicated structures that they kept in chambers, astrological structures of the galaxy that were powered by crystal energy, and they kept all these structures in closed rooms. And in the end, it all got destroyed by the Romans when they basically committed genocide and killed all the Essenes. That is a story for a different video. But so they had very advanced crystal technology. They had lamps that were battery powered by crystals. So, because both Dolores Cannon and this other hypnotist, and I can't remember her name, I'm gonna have to put it in the captions. They both talk about special lamps that don't need fuel, because all lamps back then in Jewish times in Israel, they needed fuel. They were oil lamps, but these were lamps that were battery powered by crystals. So they had very advanced astrology, and what they would also do is there was no competition amongst the Essenes. What they did is they would look at your birth chart or when a baby was born, and based on the date of the birth, they would go and look at your blueprint. What are you supposed to do in this life? What are you good at? And they would treat each child in a very individual way, and they would basically feed their talents, feed their the stuff that they were good at naturally, and they would train them to be to basically be the best version of themselves. So they were not at all like the rest of Israel back then. They were very advanced, and they are an example for education right now in our modern day time, because I think it was Rudolf Steiner and a few other people that have had a really big influence on modern day education, like Montessori schools and all kinds of other types of alternative education. They go and look at the individual child and what is the child good at, and they're gonna feed the individual talents of the child. Anyway, that's what the Essenes were also doing, and they would teach in small groups. They didn't have big classes like we do. They would mentor and teach children in groups of 2 or 3 or 4 children at a time, and those are memories that I have that I didn't read anywhere. These are memories that I have because I have memories of small, very simple structures without any like elaborate decorations or anything. And the clothing was very simple, and you would mentor with one person, and you would have maybe 2 or 3 other people that are at your level with you mentoring, and then when one person is ready to go on to another mentor, then they would go up another level. And that is really how education worked with the Essenes. So it was actually very advanced for the times back then. They taught all the children automatically about light conception, about calling in the children that you are meant to birth, about energetic connections with other people, the people that you're supposed to have specific contracts with. It was all part of just normal life, that you knew each other on an energetic level, that you knew what the contract was, that you knew what type of connection you had. It was all just normal part of everyday life. They were always aware of their past lives together. They were aware of the blueprint that they had, of the blueprint that the people had that they were interacting with, the blueprint that their children were going to have, and all that stuff. They were aware of all of it. So they were basically, they were a group that was very influenced by Atlantean technology, Atlantean wisdom, and that is also why Jesus was born into the Essene community, because in the traditional scriptures it talks about Jesus being influenced by the Essenes, maybe studying with them for a short period of time, but the truth is the Essenes knew about his coming years and years ahead, and they actually called him in. They trained their children so that one of their children would be able to light conceive Yeshua. And that is what happened. So there is Anna, and her daughter, Mary, of course, was trained. She was a very skilled and trained healer and priestess, and she called in the soul of Yeshua because she was able to do that, because she trained for years. She went through a bunch of complicated initiations, and she herself was a master at the time that she gave birth to Jesus. So, of course, as usual, in the traditional Bible and scriptures, they are not going to really talk about the women as much and their skills and their talents. Definitely not in comparison to the men that they talk about in the Bible. But yeah, so they knew about Jesus way before he was ever born, and they knew that he would be born into the Essene community, and that there would be connections to all these other places where he would go and train and gain more wisdom. And I think that's about enough for this second video, and I will be back with more information later when I feel that more information wants to come through. I hope that this was informative, that it was educational, that you learned something, and definitely stay tuned for more information later. Bye.